Welcome back. We have just done now another launch of Chandrayaan 3, the 7th launch by this particular rocket system that ISRO has developed, which has gone off 100% flawlessly. Let's open up this conversation. Joining us now on the broadcast is Group Captain V.N. Jha. Dr. Raju is with us. He's a former scientist at ISRO. Maqbool Ahmed, who's worked at both ISRO and NASA, is joining us on the broadcast, as is Dr. Simon Plume. He's the deputy head of the European Space Observation Centre in Darmstadt in Germany. You're seeing our visuals on your screens. On the left side is the liftoff, and on the right side is just a few minutes later the point of separation of the actual satellite from the rocket delivery system, which has put it in exactly the orbit that it required. Let's quickly open up this telecast. Group Captain Jha, this is the part we've nailed, but it's always tricky every time a rocket is launching in, as a controlled explosion and heading towards space at 11 kilometers a second.
Oh, yes, but it is a journey well begun. I compliment ISRO for this. They deserve all sort of praise, the amount of effort that they have taken. But once again, I repeat, it is journey just begun. We have injected the payload into the Earth's parking orbit. It was very important in the sense that hereafter, the main vehicle, whether it was the stage 2 or the C2, C25 stage, everything has been now separated. Now, what is left there is a propulsion model. This propulsion model is going to take the Chandrayaan from the Earth's parking orbit to the Earth's lunar trajectory.
Okay. Just like aircraft, the tricky part is at the beginning and at the end. So the next 1 month should be the easy part, fingers crossed. So the explosion, which is what a rocket launch has happened successfully. 3 stages, solid, liquid, cryogenic have all performed. It's gone into the orbit, it's going to take three elliptical orbits, which is going to create velocity before the slingshot happens on the 5th of August, which is roughly in 2 weeks' time. Let me hop across to Dr. Simon Plume. Dr. Simon Plume, thanks you very much for joining us on this telecast. How are you looking at the Indian Space Research Organization, sir? This is the 7th launch of this particular rocket system, which has gone off with a 100% success rate now.
What to say? I mean, at the end, let me first congratulate all Indians. I mean, it's really fantastic. I was following the entire morning here. We are a bit later in time, and of course, also particular thanks to ISRO and our friends there, the ISTRAC people with its honorable director Mr. Ramakrishna, and we are really delighted of being here and following this up. It's really fantastic. I mean, at the moment, I was following the entire morning, and I can just say thanks, India, for letting us participate and support the dream of the moon.
Okay.
What can I say?
Okay, Dr. Plume, India, I can tell you, sitting here is on an accelerated space journey. We have, in the past 1 year, we have opened up our space sector to private industry. I have never seen government agencies and a whole of government approach in trying to get the private sector on board here. Before I come to the manned launch and a satellite station and so much we need to do, this concept of bringing on board industrial private partners, how important is it, sir?
It's becoming part of our daily life. We are relying on industry already today on 80% of the work in which we are in charge. And we all have to do this and dream together. Absolutely. And I can just welcome ISRO for all the successes they have created. And now they are showcasing it even here in these missions.
There is, of course, a space sector that is emerging because of the sheer number of space launches that are required for various things like navigation and internet. We're talking about thousands and thousands of satellites that need to be put into space. How are commercial operations changing? Are we looking at this just as an explorative thing, or are we now actually seeing a space industry to the tunes of billions of dollars? I'm not even looking at tourism right now.
Well, we are looking all around. I mean, at the end, we are seeing an emerging sector, which is fantastic to follow. there is still, I think, on the exploration side, something where where ISRO and ESA will play a role. On the other hand, when industry is ready to take over communication based on satellite, why not? It's fantastic. It's the achievement, and we will all support it in this direction.
All right.
Commercialization is also an integral part of ESA. We have set up even a program in this direction to support new arrivals in becoming successful in space business.
Okay. Where do you see the obvious confluence of interest between the European Space Agency and ISRO, sir?
I think we are partners, we are friends, we are complementing each other. I feel privileged of being part of it here, and privileged that we can also help ISRO with our antennas. We are looking forward that India will help us with some of our missions in the future, and we will become, we are becoming relying on each other, sharing infrastructure, working together even more than we are doing today.
India is building its second space launch pad, spaceport, in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. So there is a huge expansion plan in this country for sure. How important is the capacity to launch not only into near Earth orbit but into further afield, which of course boosts exploration?
I mean, launching hardware, launching probes into space, same as communication, is backbone of space. So this is absolutely necessary and absolutely important. Without this, we will not do space business. So I can congratulate the successes. Seeing the wonderful launch today on video, it was just like it was looking so smooth. And coming from the sector, I know that it looks smooth and easy, but there's hard work behind, and I can just congratulate ISRO for the success.
Dr. Plume, of course, the big test happens a month from now, which is to nail the soft landing. There are only 3 other countries who've done it, which is actually land on an extraterrestrial body. Fingers crossed it's successful. If it is, what pathway does that open for the future?
It opens dreaming about the moon, about tourism, about exploration, about habitats there. We all want to dream about it, and I think this is humankind, and there are so many things which we still consider to be explored. So I will follow it also from a private, personal dimension. I will follow also what India is doing. I think it's just fantastic.
There is a different level of operations happening in India, of course, but Indians have been involved in research in space, and of course working in NASA and ESA and many other organizations for many, many decades. How has your experience been working with Indian colleagues?
It's fantastic. I was just last month in Bangalore, and I could visit the friends, exchange. We are making plans for the future. You know, next month is the landing. Then there's also Aditya on the arriving side, so we want to support as well. Chandrayaan next year, and we are looking in our side also, where we can become more partner with India, so that we foster our friendship and partnership.
Well, I can tell you we are all excited, and this is a human endeavor. It's of course pride and joy for India, but of course we are all on the same team when it comes to space exploration. Dr. Simon Plume, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts on what is a pretty exciting day if you are tracking space journeys all across the world. Let me quickly get in Dr. Raju into this conversation. Dr. Raju, quick first thoughts. Nailed it in terms of the launch itself. Just to see that separation, a few seconds which have been shot actually from the point of view of the module as it separates from the cryogenic engine. Extremely interesting. Let me take that thought with Maqbool Ahmed first. Maqbool ji, if you can hear us, just that point of separation, flawless, pretty flawless launch.
It just takes me back to the Moon Impact Probe mission. When the Moon Impact Probe mission actually had a impact on the moon, my boss, who was 50 years old then, was jumping like a child. And today I was just speaking to the local TV folks. I was just saying that I'm 60 years old now. I mean, I love to jump, and that's all happened. And I have to just add one point here, is that I wrote one LinkedIn post yesterday. You can't believe I have 127,000 readership. People are just following very, very closely all across globe. And they want to know what exactly is LVM3. And that's all I did. I did that. LVM3 may not be as big as Starship, but take it from me, it will do its job.
Okay, I want to jump in. Srijan Pal Singh is with us also. Srijan, just that point of being able to do it again and again and again with high levels of reliability. Now, this is, if you heard the press conference at the end, repeatedly the mission directors as well as the center directors repeatedly saying that this is the platform for the Gaganyaan mission, which means that we trust this platform to actually put human beings on top.
Absolutely. I think when we started with the LVM mission, the objective was to use it for human launch into space. So we are right on the track for this. Do understand that the LVM is not just a very reliable launch vehicle, but it also comes at a very low cost. And it is 100% indigenous. You also heard of how we talked about how so many little tiny industries in micro and MSME sector has contributed to the development of this launch vehicle. So what we have done in the process is not only we have developed a space launch vehicle, we have also developed an industry which can develop even further, a better version, a bigger version, when we need to perhaps send men and women to moon, which may be a 10-year target for us. But Gaganyaan, which is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years, where we will start our process of putting humans or Indians into space, would use these space vehicles. So I think
because there's so much excitement happening, because we've just started designing and testing the prototypes of what our version of the space shuttle is going to look like. It's just started a couple of months ago. The first prototype, which is a scale model, is being tested. So it seems so far away. You're testing scale models, okay, right? I mean, once you want to do human space flight, you not only have to go up, but you have to safely come back down. And it seems so far away, but I was referring this to someone and they said, in 61, when Kennedy made the speech that we will land on the moon before the decade is out. So it was less than a decade. So less than a decade means we'll all be around to see it. What a joy that's going to be as and when it happens. Do we have Dr. Raju with us now? Dr. Raju, can you hear us? Dr. Raju, your thoughts quickly, sir, as you see this successful launch happening.
Now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I didn't get your full question. Please repeat it.
Yeah, just your thoughts, sir. I'll ask a question very shortly. Just your thoughts first on this successful launch.
Yes, I'm very much excited, particularly as was being connected by some of our friends to Gaganyaan. The moon surface, moon itself is a big laboratory. It's not only a laboratory, but an industry. There are plans by many countries to explore the moon physically, because one is by remote sensing, that's not enough. Can we go and land on the moon and further do the experimental, not only for exploration, but also use moon as the launch pad for launching other missions. So let's go into extragalactic space, because moon's gravity is almost 1/6 of the Earth's gravity, and it's more economical to launch from the moon surface. So this is a beginning. We are going to explore where we can possibly land safely and successfully. And as I said, there are many beginnings done in this country, in this organization. I'm looking at, as an academic person, now I'm working as a professor. I think there is a lot of enthusiasm among student communities starting for working, opening their own startups. I wish this will open up more ideas, more enthusiasm, and more motivation. This is my first expectation.
Okay, if you just see this, and there's such a long way to go, right? And as I mentioned, the science and the telemetry that you're going to get from the onboard payloads is going to be of value for sure. But let's not kid ourselves. This is about acquiring capacity for the future. Now we know for sure that this LVM, all right, and the cryogenic engine, the amount of how long you burn it is generally done conservatively. As you gain confidence, you can burn it for longer and longer and longer, which increases your payload size, and you can start maxing out your payloads. So this is all testing that is going on, and ladies and gentlemen, the big deal is being able to land on the moon, being able to put a ramp down and have a remote control car, a rover operating. Then the next phase will be being able to take off again from the moon, then to be able to dock in orbit, then to be able to land safely back on the earth. There's a long way to go, but it all can be done. Group Captain Jha, I know the payloads are important, sir, the laser spectroscopes, that they're going to study the chemical composition of the lunar dust. They're going to point the camera back and, study the spectroscopic composition of the earth also. All very interesting. But this is a technology demonstrator on our ability to do greater things. That is far more important, because the lifespan of the payload is only 2 weeks.
Well, lifespan is for the 2 weeks, that's fine. But nothing stops it from working on the other day. And other day comes 14 days later. So that's no limitation, because there's a regenerable power supply. Solar panels are there that will withstand. Solar panel of the lander, solar panel of the rover, all those things will be there. But one thing that I would like to mention here, Rishabh, what happens? Right now, our periodic table contains 118 elements. Somehow, I have a feeling in the coming weeks, months, or years, India is going to give that 119th element to the world. Because what happens? The moon surface is not explored fully. What most of the nation have been exploring the equator and the adjacent space, that is lot contaminated by the meteorites, by the other impacts. So that is not the area to look at the basic elements of moon. Southern or northern pole area is the one where it will be as much more cleaner than the contaminants that is elsewhere. So I have a feeling that in this area particularly, in coming days, this rover may be able to detect, especially that the alpha particle thing and the X-ray, the laser X-ray thing.
Okay. Dr. Jha is excited about this because the first attempt of India on the moon discovered water. Okay, so there's real scientific discovery out there, which is important. But the reason I am trying to just put this conversation into perspective is that you can only do the scientific discovery if you are confident that the payload is going to survive the journey and actually be deployed. If you don't land on the moon, you can't do the scientific discovery. So which is why the ability to perform the functionality of it is as important, because once the functionality becomes reliable, then the science can happen at leisure. You can actually put on very complicated, expensive equipment because you know for sure it's going to land on the moon. Okay, you can increase the value of it. It's literally the sky is not the limit. So let me take this step by step. Let me get Srijan back into this conversation. Srijan, now when I began my career, when my hair was still black, I remember doing a live TV telecast when the cryogenic engine, which we were developing since the late 80s, early 90s, it blew up and it didn't make it. Now here we are, we know for sure that the rocket launch ability that a country needs to get into not only near but far space, which is you need to have your solid boosters, you need to nail your liquid propellant rockets, and you need to nail the cryogenic stage, and the separation of all these three. So we now have reliable demonstration of all these three. You can improve their scale, you can make them larger. But to be able to do this, how reliably, how important is this? Srijan, if you can hear us. Okay, I promise you, reliably important. One day our internet will be more reliable as will be coming from space as well. So while we sort that out, let me get to Maqboolji back in. Maqboolji, in the end, we are going to have to do science. But what we want to achieve is a rocket launch maybe every week. That's the target, 52 rocket launches a year. So you need to have cent percent or near cent percent reliability. Are we there yet? Can you hear us, sir? Well, speaking of cent percent, near cent percent reliability, my PCI crew, can you sort this out?
I just lost your voice for a minute.
Yes, Srijan lost. Yeah, we lost your internet connection. I'm assuming Dr. Raju can't hear us either. Speaking of cent percent reliability here on Earth.
We can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear
Okay,
all.
okay. Dr. Raju, take that thought. Or maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, do you want me to answer? Okay.
Okay.
I can take that question if you want.
Yeah, as I was repeatedly getting into cent percent reliability, and this is what technology has done to us, which is very much terrestrial as we speak. Srijan, I was asking the question on being able to have a reliable, trusted rocket that can put things into space. You can want to do as much science as you want, and you might want to, get past the solar system through the Oort cloud and whatnot. But you're putting equipment on board, you need to make sure it gets where it's intended to get. That is the most important thing right now. Do we have that rocket?
Well, there is no country, no organization which can say that they have a 100% reliable rocket system, a launch vehicle. For that matter of fact, there's no 100% reliable car or 100% reliable aircraft or 100% reliable submarine. We saw that too. But the human community as a whole, and India as a country and ISRO as an organization, is definitely making big strides toward that. If you look, as you were mentioning earlier, your examples, how the cryogenic engine used to blow up, how in 1979, our first satellite launch vehicle, SLV-3, landed in the Bay of Bengal. And in 1980, we made it a success. How 3 years ago, Chandrayaan-2 was a partial success. And now I hope that Chandrayaan-3 will learn from it and make it a full success. Science is not about necessarily achieving 100% success rate in the first go. If that is happening, then probably your goal is too low. Failures will happen, but failures are the ones which give you the lessons on which you improve. Now, if you look at ISRO, we are nearly 100% when it comes to launching things to the low Earth orbit. We are nearly 100% when it's even, we are actually 100% when it takes taking things right to the moon. Where we are not 100% is making things softly land on moon, which I hope we will achieve now 50% after Chandrayaan-3's success. And that's the nature of space science. Space is very hostile, and especially when you start talking about...
All right. So there are two parts of the frontiers. And the reason I'm doing this and having this conversation this way, in this fashion, Dr. Jha, come in on this, because there are two parts of the conversation. You and I can board an airplane these days because there is a very high degree of reliability that the airplane is not going to crash. That wasn't the case 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So you're going to have to develop an ecosystem which at least is operating in the near Earth space, and that's what's going to happen right now. Okay, near Earth is where you're going to operate. The missions to the moon and the Mars will be still one-offs, but you need to have that workhorse operating reliably all the time, whether it's doing 50, 60 launches a year. Then you're going to have the ability, like I said, to hopefully put human beings into space. So the two things are going to have to run parallelly. Right now, we have to go from quality to quantity. So now they've done 7 launches, 3 in the span of 1 year. We want to be able to do 1 a month, maybe even more. How do we get there?
Rishabh, actually what happens, you mentioned aircraft. I have flown ST-2 aircraft. Have you seen it?
No, sir.
No. ST-2 aircraft was a aircraft which had a seat but didn't have the cushion. We used to carry the cushion and the parachute on our back and then go to the aircraft, sit down there. When we moved the stick, we could see the wire. There was a wheel at the base of it. We could see the wire moving here and there. And we used to get scared often that, the floor is not very clean. What if this gets stuck somewhere? Those were the days that you are talking of. In a design, in an engineering design, if a system is proven, and if you remake another system exactly to the pinpoint, within the given tolerance that we have in the manufacturing, it will succeed 100%. But there is a but. But the tolerance part, the quality assurance is the subject. GSLV failed last year. We were on your channel. The third stage failed to ignite. Why? Because that tolerance was not looked after. Something had gone wrong there in the manufacturing. The next stage didn't lit up. So if the engineering part is there too, as it was designed, a successful design, it will succeed 100%. But then that but comes that if the tolerance is being taken care of.
No, there'll always be buts. There'll always be buts. But I'm trying to thread together a conversation for people to understand that we have to now see space as an industrial sector. Okay. For space internet to come, 40,000 satellites are going to have to be put by every agency at maybe 30, 40 a launch. Okay, so you're going to need hundreds of launches, maybe thousands of launches. Now, whether SpaceX is doing them or ISRO is doing them or somebody else is doing them, certainly ISRO should be a large part. Maybe 10-20% of the space launches should be happening through ISRO. So you're going to have to create an ecosystem which has a reliable rocket that can launch a payload into near-Earth orbit. Then you're going to have to create the continuous learning ecosystem to build better rockets, to build more reliable things, to learn the space docking and landing and relaunching and reusability. All of that is going to have to happen parallelly. So I'm trying to address this because it's fundamentally important. So I'm going to try once again to get Maqbool Ahmed into this conversation. Maqbool ji, in this particular rocket system, which has had now 7 successful launches, 3 in 1 year, do we have the system that we can now multiply this maybe into a launch a month? Yeah, one of those days. Thankfully, ISRO is not having one of those days. Dr. Raju, can you take that thought, please?
Yes. Yes, I can take that call. Maybe, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir, we are.
Yeah, it's a very simple answer in one way. ISRO has now the other wing of ISRO is in space. They are supposed to, we're expected to, or I feel that there is a big requirement. You are asking about large number of, components, maybe rockets or satellites or anything. There are plans that it can be done. The industry has to come forward. It has already come. Has taken a major step. There are many startups. In fact, you might have heard launch vehicles being done by a small scale or small, startups.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's a very big achievement. It's a very big achievement. There are many smaller startups which are able to develop satellites. So we are almost full-fledged, the whole in the space industry. I'm not doubting at all it will come forward. We have very good resources. We got a lot of enthusiastic youngsters. And we should look for bringing academia as well as industry into research. Just these three combined into a forum where whatever is expected for the end user purpose.
Okay.
Like, as you said, that's possible.
Okay.
Certainly that's
okay. So for end user purpose, of course, it translates like every mobile phone now has GPS. Okay. We are building our own NavX system. We take these things for granted. They 30, 40 years ago, they were the cutting edge and now it's part of routine. And that's exactly the point I'm trying to make to you. 10, 20, 30 years from now, going into space will hopefully be affordable and a part of routine. There aren't enough rockets available, launch windows available in the world right now to put up all the satellites that are required as we speak. There is a 3-year wait. So if you build a satellite today, it'll be 3 years before you can get it up into space because enough launches are not available. There's a huge opportunity out there for people watching a broadcast like this to invest and get into this sector. And certainly Bellatrix is the first Indian organization that has started its rocket testing. These are not rockets the size of the ISRO rocket or not even close to the size of what Elon Musk is building. There may be 100 kilograms of a payload, good enough to put out microsatellites, which you need to do in quantity. So stuff is happening. I'm going to take quick last thoughts from everyone before we wrap up this telecast. Srijan, Obviously, we come back a month later, and the big point is going to be when we nail that landing. So this is important. But if we nail the landing, if you and I get to sit and watch live on television that ramp coming down in the rover crawling its way out and leaving an imprint on the dust on the moon, okay, how iconic is that going to be?
It's going to be a great movement, not just for India, but also for the global human community. Reaching out to the next planetary body has been a long cherished dream ever since cavemen would have ventured their eyes into the sky. And I think we can once again say, as Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma once said when he went to the space station, "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara."
Yeah, there was a very famous phone call between him and the Prime Minister then in which that statement was made. Dr. Jha, a month from now, just over a month from now, hopefully we'll have the first images of the ISRO logo on the wheel of that rover, which is going to imprint itself on the lunar dust. How iconic is that moment going to be, sir? And of course, what's next? The footprints hopefully by the decade is out.
Rishabh, I think you are being a little more harsh to the ISRO, because today we have completed phase 1, in which the satellite has been injected into the Earth's parking orbit. And what we are talking is post phase 10. Right now, from phase 1, now the ISRO will be monitoring every pass that the satellite makes of the Earth. And with that sling action, they will be now boosting up the orbit. Finally, when the phase 2 happens, it will be putting the satellite onto the trajectory towards the moon. And then in that trajectory for that many days, there are many bit of tinkering required. Even if 0.5 second, I'm not talking of degree, not minute, I'm talking of second. Even if 0.005 second deviation, you trim it up there and bring it to that. That sort of operation is required. And then when it goes towards the moon, near the moon, if the speed is more, it will escape. So the speed velocity.
So yes, it is very much rocket science. And no, I'm not being harsh at all. I know a lot has to happen in the next 4 weeks, sir. But like I said at the very beginning, the most important and critically sensitive part generally is the launch and is the landing. So we've nailed the launch, and we really know how to nail the launch. We nailed the launch last time also. We know how to put, we've done it twice. We know how to put a satellite into lunar orbit. We know how to capture the moon. We've nailed that. The one we now need to nail is to land. And trust me, there is something different when you get a photograph which is taken from a made in India camera looking back at the Earth from the moon. It's going to be pretty iconic. Gentlemen, my thanks for all of those who could join us. Sorry for the communication issues we clearly had. Thankfully, ISRO was having a better day than we were. We take a break. See you in a couple of minutes.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.